Hello and welcome. It's time to hear what's on my mind on this episode of the Trisha's 2 Cents podcast. I'm your host, Trisha. A few weeks ago, I posted on my personal Facebook page, and it was a picture from the Center of Disease Control stating that the Black and Hispanic death rate for COVID-19 is almost 3 times the rate of white persons. Now, a person who is a Facebook friend and former coworker inboxed me and asked me why did I point out Blacks and Hispanics. They said it was like I was singling out whites. Now, I didn't even respond to the message at the time. I didn't respond at all, actually. Because at this point, I'm tired of trying or having to explain why I am looking out for Black people. When it comes to science, data is always shared or given compared to white, non-Hispanic persons. And that's because white people are the majority. So if you was to go Harvard or medical journals, Mayo Clinic, everything is given in that way so that you can compare, say Black women and breast cancer versus white women and breast cancer and how they get it and death rate. That's just how data is given. But it kind of triggered something in me because it's like, why do I have to explain, first of all, science? Second of all, me sharing information that is pertinent to people that I care about, which is my family. I'm Black. My family's Black. So, of course, I'm going to give out information that pertains to them. And I am a Black woman who understands the history of how my family started in this country. I started researching my family on Ancestry.com because I've always been a why, who, what child from the very beginning. I just always wanted to know. Plus, I've always loved history and still do to this day. But I have seen my ancestors on slave schedules. I've seen their names on census stating that they could not read or write. And I've also seen them listed as, of course, colored and Black, the different names that Black people have been called, and also mulatto, which means part white. And that's another story right there, but because that has this history in slavery. But the point is, it's so many different levels to this. And what's going on right now in this country. I have been stopped by the police and accused of having a fake inspection sticker. I have been asked, is this my car that I'm driving? Questions that a Black person would not be asked, because I've asked them. I've asked several people and they've said, I've never been asked those questions. And of course not. So my point is, any outside person looking in keeps saying to Black people, why can't you just be happy by now? But our reality is so much deeper than the surface. There is so much systematic racism that it would take, so long to decipher, because like I said, I'm a student of history, and the systematic racism that is in finance, that is in housing, that is in education. This is why we have historically black colleges and universities. It's because they didn't want us to go to their schools, so we had to start our own schools. It's just so much that black people has had to overcome in this country. And instead of it getting better, it seems to be getting worse. Because over time things are supposed to get better, not get worse. I tell a story of in my hometown. All the time I've grown up, I've seen people with the rebel flag, the Confederate flag, but I have never really seen it on a large scale until this past 4 years. And when you enter into the county, there's a huge flag flying high on personal property, of course, but they did it to send a message. Okay? And it's hurtful for a reason. If you do something knowing it's going to hurt somebody else intentionally, you know what you're doing. Because you would never want to do something to intentionally hurt another person. If I know something I'm doing is hurting you, I'm going to stop. Okay? And just this week, the Kansas City Star newspaper apologized for racism in decades of reporting. They issued an apology, and they said for having, quote, disenfranchised, ignored, and scorned, unquote, generations of black people. And they were saying how they wouldn't report on famous black people in the community, things, accomplishments, on purpose. So that was intentional. And that's what we want, is recognition that we have been intentionally, and intentionally means purposely hurt. Just like that flag that there's flying when you go into the county that I was raised, the county that my grandparents were raised, the county that my ancestors were slaves, that was not there, intentionally put up to hurt. And the only reason is because we're black. The only reason is because they feel that we're not as smart as they are. They feel that because of the color of our skin, that we're not as intelligent. And it's hurtful. The only reason is because we're not white. That's it. My daughter asked me one time, she said, why do they hate us so much? And I said, I don't know. There is no logical reason. It's just because we look different. That's it. But we were property. The Constitution said we were 3/5 of a human. We were no more than that tractor in the field. We were property. So if the opportunity comes, I'm going to share information that's going to help my community, my family. But the difference is, I'm not going to do anything that's going to intentionally hurt someone else. So the information that I share is not going to hurt anyone. It's just going to help someone else. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Trisha's 2 Cents podcast. Join me on the next episode as I give life lessons through my experience, my growth, and always from my heart. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite listening platform.